Alrighty, so today we're strapping in for another video. Unfortunately, I've come here to jump on the dog pile to talk about the second Joker movie, and we saw it last night because, actually, weirdly enough, the original Joker movie was the very first date that me and Mary Elizabeth ever went on together to go see that movie. And surprisingly, after seeing that movie with me, she still wanted to hang out with me. Kind of a funny first date movie, to be honest. But that being said, we thought it'd be kind of fun to go see the sequel when it comes out. And basically, it's literally 5 years almost after the first one came out because we're about to have our 5 year anniversary and we're getting like married on that day. So I guess it feels kind of weird that it literally falls within that timetable. But unfortunately, the movie honestly was not very good. And I'll tell you why. So I could go into a bunch of details about the movie, but I think that a lot of other people are going to take the opportunity to crap on this movie. Basically, this movie really is a musical in a sense, and it's not so heavy handed in that way where it could probably be called one entirely, but it definitely is like 50% musical, 50% court drama. And the reality is that just the way that everything goes in this movie, it's like off the legacy of the first one. It's almost like they didn't like the first one. Like the way that this movie is, it's for one thing like a completely different type of movie. It's not a thriller in any way. We're not examining Arthur Fleck any deeper. I think the cartoon at the beginning was interesting and kind of fun to establish the reality behind his condition and how this interpretation of the Joker is basically suffering from this like split personality or maybe not or whatever. But I felt like the cartoon at the beginning was interesting, but then it just goes downhill from there. Mostly because we really it's almost like this is the type of movie that would maybe occur as like a spin-off, maybe like something that you go straight to streaming with or something like that. And I hate to say something that I guess critical, but ultimately the musical scenes were interesting, but they weren't done in a way that was made me feel like I was watching something from the golden days of like Singing in the Rain and stuff like that. I saw a comment, it's like they're no Gene Kelly, and that really is true. And the other part of it is that the plot altogether makes a little bit of sense, but then eventually just goes off into like something that just really, I mean, you could just tell that we're not really building on anything important here because the way that Harley is introduced and then the way that the complications about her character come up and then the way that the movie resolves is just completely underwhelming. Like they really 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 don't deliver. It's like they tease you with the idea of something that could be interesting, with the premise of the movie being like introducing Lady Gaga as this like Harley character, and her being the one that's like following him and supporting him during the court case, and him trying to use the court case as like his next media opportunity. But then, to spoil the ending, like the way that this movie ends, it's almost like you would have preferred that he went psycho, because then in that way we're at least, if we go off in the sunset in this examination of building on this, what happens when you have somebody that has this high level of psychosis and you expose them to a society like Gotham City that actually does not give an F about somebody like this, not even related to real life, but just when we think about what Gotham is historically represented in all the stories surrounding Batman. But it's just like there was something interesting there, and I guess because maybe Todd Phillips got annoyed that people thought he was trying to say something else with the last movie to such a degree. And he was having decent commentary on what he did make a point on in the last movie. But then in this movie, it's like, it's almost like the shell, like it could have been maybe a good movie if there was some more substance in certain areas. But it's almost, it feels like they made a 3 or below movie on purpose. Like they had all the hype, they had the right people, and then when it got time to get down and write the story, they were just like, let's kill this franchise. We don't really need it anymore. And the way that this movie ends especially feeds into that, where he snaps back into being Arthur and he's like, no, actually, I just killed all those people. But, I mean, I guess that's a spoiler, but I really don't think you guys should go see it. So, regardless, I think the movie, it just doesn't pay off. And ultimately, I thought that even with this musical aspect, that there was at least going to be some level of thriller, some level of like interesting stuff going on. And at every point where they could have introduced something like that, it seems like they just were like, okay, let's just move on. And so the movie ultimately doesn't deliver. It's not interesting. So that's my opinion. I think that as well, they did some other choices that didn't really make any sense. Like the guy that plays Harvey Dent, like just honestly looks too much like the guy that plays the one doctor in House. And he is like too young for this role to be this strong litigator. Anybody that is a real adult is like a person at that age would not be at that point in his life where he's like the acting DA. So maybe I'm mistaken about that. Maybe that's my bias, but that just came off weird. That was a little bit like immersion breaking. And then just the sequences of how everything played out in the movie just more and more made me feel like, okay, they just didn't, they're not trying to do anything good with this one. This is like a revenge film. And, I even had a moment during this movie where I really had to piss. And I was like, okay, maybe something interesting is finally going to happen in the court scene. So I'll hold it in. And it did not pay off. I suffered for no reason. So that being said, that's the review of the movie. I'm sorry if anybody's upset that I just said that part about the end. But I frankly don't think you should go see this in theaters. And if I was going to rate this, I think last night I said it was somewhere around a light 3, because even if the movie was kind of bad, it was entertaining, at least with the musical scenes with Lady Gaga and stuff like that. But the more I sleep on it, and I promise I haven't watched any videos, but I know that this is kind of the sentiment. But the more I sleep on it, the more I'm like, this movie is basically just a nothing burger. Like, there's just no real cultural value in this movie. And in that way, because it could have been something interesting, it is definitely a strong 2 to a light 3. So that's my review. That's Joker 2, Folie à Deux. But, I'm just disappointed. Especially because I was kind of excited. We both, in our first date really liked the movie. And now we're going back to see this movie, and it was not good. So that's my review. I'm not going to talk anymore about it. For anybody that's made it to this point in the video, the conspiracies about popcorn are true. The stale popcorn is going to mess up your stomach. The normal popcorn did not do me any harm. So that being said, that's the end of the video. I will catch you guys in the next one.